need someone more dynamic," Austin said, his rehearsed firing speech hanging in the air between us. I'd seen this coming for weeks. Without a word, I slid a sealed manila envelope across his polished desk. His eyes narrowed with confusion. This wasn't in his script. "It's for the board meeting on Thursday," I said quietly. "They'll want to see it together. My name is Mark Harrow, 47, VP of Strategic Partnerships at TitanEdge Solutions. Or at least I was until approximately 20 minutes after securing the largest government contract in our company's history." The morning had been quiet. Midtown Manhattan's glass towers reflected the September sun as I sat across from two government executives in our west-facing conference room. No small talk, just signatures. The air conditioning hummed softly as pens scratched against paper. $9 million in enterprise software licensing for their agency, and not a single high five or champagne toast in sight. That's how I've always worked. Listen more than talk, plan the details, execute without drama. I closed my laptop, gathered the signed contracts, and shook hands with the agency representatives. Their faces betrayed nothing. Neither did mine. Back in my corner office, I filed the paperwork and sent a brief update to the executive team. 3 sentences. No exclamation points. The way business should be done. My desk phone rang 20 minutes later. "Austin wants to see you upstairs." His assistant's voice had that careful flatness that only comes with delivering bad news. I already knew. The executive floor was all glass and light, designed to make visitors feel exposed. Austin Reller's office took up the northeast corner, premium Manhattan real estate for a CEO barely into his 30s. "Mark, thanks for coming up." Austin gestured to the chair across from his desk. No papers in front of him. Bad sign. He leaned forward, elbows on the polished surface. "You've done great work for us, Mark. The government contract this morning? Impressive." I waited. There's always a but coming. But the board's pushing for a culture shift. We need someone more. He paused, searching for the right word. Dynamic. What he meant was younger. Louder. Someone who'd high-five him in the hallways and validate his leadership with visible enthusiasm. I kept my eyes steady on his. No reaction. "We're preparing a generous severance package," he continued, uncomfortable with my silence. "Of course, we'll need a smooth transition for your accounts." Had he practiced this speech? Probably. I reached into my messenger bag and pulled out a sealed manila envelope, slid it across the polished desk toward him without a word. Austin's eyebrows lifted slightly. "What's this?" "I figured," I said. My voice betrayed nothing. "It's addressed to the board. You'll want them to see it together." Confusion flickered across his face. He wasn't used to script deviations. I stood up. "When is the next board meeting?" "Thursday, but..." "Good timing, then." I turned to leave. "Mark, if this is some kind of..." "It's not a resignation letter, if that's what you're asking." I paused at the door. "Consider it my final contribution to TitanEdge's future." I left him sitting there, envelope untouched, on his desk. Back at my office, I didn't delete files or clear personal items. Didn't say goodbye to colleagues or take that dramatic last look around. What would be the point? The security guard nodded as I crossed the lobby. Did he already know? Probably. Outside, Manhattan continued its Thursday hustle. Taxis honked. Pedestrians brushed past with their eyes locked on phones. No one noticed the unemployed executive standing motionless on the sidewalk. I checked my watch. 12:36 p.m. I closed a $9.00 M deal that morning. I was unemployed by lunch. I didn't get mad. I got methodical. Sometimes the most powerful move isn't what you say when you're betrayed. It's what you've already done in anticipation. I didn't go home immediately after Austin fired me. Instead, I walked 6 blocks to a coffee shop I'd never visited before. Paid cash, ordered black coffee, sat in the corner. People think revenge starts with anger. It doesn't. It starts with patience. My apartment in Murray Hill felt different that evening, quieter as if the walls were listening. I hung my suit jacket in the closet and locked the front door twice. What happens after you lose your job of 8 years? According to most people, panic, rage, desperate networking. None of that applied here. I walked to my home office. The space was minimal, just a desk, ergonomic chair, and a single filing cabinet. No family photos, no awards, nothing personal. The second drawer of the cabinet slid open with a soft metallic whisper. Inside, 3 expandable folders, color-coded and labeled by date. Each contained printed emails, financial reports, audit trails, and highlighted PDFs. Some papers were months old, with notes in my precise handwriting along the margins. This wasn't a reaction to being fired. This was why I was fired. You don't build a business like Austin's without hiding something, and you don't fire someone like me unless you're hiding everything. The truth? I'd seen the irregularities 6 months earlier while reviewing our quarterly financial reports. Small discrepancies at first. Licensing revenue that didn't quite match our sales figures. Just a rounding error maybe, or a bookkeeping mistake. But I'm not built to ignore patterns. TitanEdge had been funneling significant portions of our back-end licensing revenue into what appeared on paper as channel partner performance bonuses. Standard industry practice, if you didn't look too closely. I looked closer. The receiving entity, Horizon Innovation Partners, LLC. Registered in Delaware, of course. Sounds legitimate enough. Except Horizon Innovation Partners had no employees. No website. No actual partners. Just a mailing address and a bank account. And an owner, Michael Carlisle, Austin's former roommate from Stanford. What are the odds? I made myself a cup of tea and spread the documents across my dining table. The numbers told a simple story. Over the past 18 months, nearly $14 million, 0 cents, had disappeared into Horizon's accounts. Not stolen, laundered. I documented everything methodically. Transaction records, entity formation documents, bank transfer confirmations from our internal system, screenshots of Austin and Michael's social media history together. All perfectly legal to collect, all carefully preserved, but documentation without action is just paper collecting dust. I picked up my phone and scrolled to a contact I hadn't used in months, Angela Petrus. Our former in-house counsel, brilliant legal mind, ethical to a fault. The company had restructured her role out of existence 6 months ago. Now, I knew why. Her small law practice operated out of a converted brownstone in the village. The sign on the door simply read, Petrus Legal Services. No website, no advertising, just referrals. Smart woman. We met the next evening at a quiet bar near Washington Square, the kind of place where Manhattan professionals disappear into dark corners with bourbon and secrets. You look good for someone who just got fired, she said, sliding into the booth opposite me. No surprise, she already knew. Manhattan's corporate world runs on whispers. I had advance notice, I replied. Her eyes narrowed slightly. How much advance? About 3 months. I slid a slim folder across the table. Angela opened it, her expression unchanged as she methodically turned pages. 5 minutes passed. 10. She finished her scotch without looking up. Finally, she closed the folder and sat back. This isn't just fraud, Mark. This is federal contract fraud. That $9.00 M deal you closed? They're laundering government funds. The words hung in the dim bar light. I know, I said. Did you know before you closed the deal? I nodded once. Jesus, she exhaled slowly. That's why they pushed you out immediately, isn't it? They needed the contract, but not the one person who understood how they were using it. The pieces were falling into place for her now. The timing wasn't accidental, I said. Austin needed my government contract to meet their compliance thresholds with the SEC, but he needed me gone before the funds actually cleared. Angela laughed without humor. He wanted the money on the books, but not the man who earned it. Exactly. What's your plan? She asked, tapping the folder with one manicured finger. I'd like your legal opinion first. She leaned forward. Off the record? They're completely exposed. Federal procurement fraud carries serious penalties. Prison time, not just for Austin, for the board members who enabled this. Something shifted in the bar's atmosphere, or maybe just in me. And the envelope you gave Austin? She asked. What was that? I smiled slightly. The beginning. Angela raised an eyebrow. You're playing a dangerous game, Mark. Not playing, I corrected. Winning. She studied me for a long moment. What do you need from me? Initially, just hold a copy of everything I've collected. Insurance. Angela nodded slowly. And unofficially? Your expertise when this becomes official. The bartender passed by, glasses clinking softly on his tray. Angela watched him go before turning back to me. You know what I find interesting? She said. You don't seem angry. I considered this. Anger is reactive. This isn't about reaction. It was about justice, about systems failing and being rebuilt, about consequences for people who believed they were beyond them. When did you start collecting this information? She asked. The day after they let you go. Her eyes widened slightly, the only emotional reaction I'd seen from her all night. I could have told her then, about how her unexplained departure had triggered my suspicion, about how I'd seen her question Austin about the partnership bonuses 2 weeks before she was pushed out. But some revelations are better saved. The chess game was already in motion. Austin just didn't know he was playing yet. The morning after meeting Angela, I sat at my kitchen table with 3 separate laptops arranged in front of me, each for a different purpose, each untraceable back to me. Not paranoia, preparation. The first move needed to be precise. Timing matters in chess and in justice. I started with the Department of Justice whistleblower portal, anonymous submission. IP routed through multiple VPNs. The complaint laid out TitanEdge scheme in clinical detail. Systematic diversion of back-end licensing revenue. Shell company ownership concealed through multiple layers. Federal contract funds being laundered through fake partner bonuses. I attached 43 pages of supporting documentation, every file named and organized with military precision, nothing emotional or accusatory in the language, just facts and evidence. Submit. Confirmation number recorded. Move complete. Would they act immediately? No. Government investigations move methodically, but they would move. Have you ever constructed something designed to be discovered by someone else? The art is making them believe they found it themselves. My second laptop connected to a different network entirely. This one for contacting David Mercer, an investigative journalist specializing in corporate finance. We'd met 3 years ago when he was researching an industry piece. Smart guy. Meticulous. Hungry for the story beneath the story. I encrypted the files before sending them, included a simple message. TitanEdge Solutions. Follow the money to Horizon Innovation Partners, LLC. Documentation attached. Not for attribution. No signature, no dramatics. David would recognize the value instantly. His reputation was built on exposing exactly this kind of corporate fraud. The email would be like handing a bloodhound a scent. The third laptop was for the insurance copy to Angela. Everything I'd given to the DOJ and David, plus additional context she would understand as a lawyer. 3 separate actions, 3 separate consequences, all converging toward one outcome. But the real trap had been set days earlier, in that envelope I'd handed to Austin. What did it contain? A seemingly innocent revenue optimization report I'd created specifically for the board meeting, professionally bound, executive summary, glossy charts showing projected growth. Exactly the kind of thing a CEO wants to show his board. The report contained one critical element, A hidden data table that, when uploaded to TitanEdge's financial reporting system, would trigger an internal compliance alert about Horizon Innovation Partners. I wrote it in the language of greed, numbers that would make Austin look brilliant if true, projections that would cement his leadership. He wouldn't be able to resist. The board meeting was scheduled for Thursday at 10 a.m. I didn't attend, of course. Didn't need to. Instead, I took a morning walk through Central Park. Phone off, no news alerts. Just the rustle of early autumn leaves and the distant hum of the city. By noon, my anonymous email account had 3 new messages. The first from Angela. It's started. Board meeting ended abruptly. Compliance team involved. The second from a former colleague. WTF is happening at the office? Austin's locked in with legal and IT seized his laptop. The third from David Mercer. Documents received. Compelling material. We need to talk. I didn't respond to any of them. You see, once you set the proper mechanisms in motion, they work without your interference. Systems responding to systems. Action generating reaction. Thursday became Friday. I maintained my routine. Morning coffee, reading, exercise. No news searches, no social media. Patience has its own reward. Monday morning, my phone rang. Angela. They didn't tell me about the envelope, she said without greeting. Clever move. What happened? I asked, though I already knew. Austin uploaded your report to the executive dashboard during the board meeting, practically gloating about revenue projections. 2 minutes later, the compliance system flagged potential conflicts with Horizon Partners. I could picture the scene. Austin's confusion as alert popped up on the boardroom screens. The raised eyebrows of board members. The first cracks in his carefully constructed facade. 3 board members witnessed it in real time, Angela continued. The system automatically locked related financial records and notified internal audit. Austin couldn't shut it down without looking guilty. And now? I asked. Now? Chaos. Internal investigation. Austin is claiming ignorance about Horizon. IT has his devices. His assistant isn't taking his calls. The chess pieces were moving exactly as planned. Has anyone connected it to me yet? Not publicly, Angela said. But it's just a matter of time before someone remembers the mysterious envelope from the fired VP. I was fine, expected even. By Wednesday, David Mercer had emailed again. Story runs Friday. Sources confirm internal investigation at TitanEdge. Board member Patricia Voss has resigned suddenly. Comments? I declined to comment. Let the evidence speak for itself. Have you noticed how quickly powerful people crumble when their foundations shake? Austin had built his reputation on apparent success. Now that success was being questioned, people were pulling away. His assistant requested a transfer to another department. The CFO suddenly needed to focus on family matters. Board members stopped returning his calls, not because they knew everything yet, but because they sensed blood in the water. Thursday afternoon, I received an unexpected call from Patricia Voss, the resigned board member herself. I want you to know I had no idea about Horizon, she began without introduction. I'm cooperating fully with the audit committee. Interesting. She'd found my number. Wanted to establish distance from what was coming. I appreciate the call, Patricia, I said evenly. Though I'm not sure why you're telling me this. A pause on the line. Because you started this. The envelope. The report. I simply provided information, I replied. The board's system flagged potential compliance issues. That's how it's supposed to work. Don't play games, Mark. Austin is telling everyone you're behind this. That it's some vengeful plot because he fired you. Of course he was. The predictable defense of the guilty. The facts will speak for themselves, I said. The money trail doesn't lie. Another pause. The SEC has contacted us. Now we were getting somewhere. By Friday morning, David's article was published. TitanEdge Solutions under investigation for alleged financial fraud. The piece methodically outlined the Horizon partnership scheme, the federal contract implications, and the sudden leadership turmoil. My name appeared only once, in the 15th paragraph. Mark Harrow, a former executive who recently left the company, had reportedly raised concerns about financial irregularities before his departure. Perfect. Not the whistleblower, just a concerned former employee who'd noticed something amiss. I never raised my voice. I just fed the fire with truth. Austin's carefully constructed world was burning down around him, not because I shouted or threatened or exposed him directly, but because I simply revealed what was already there. The most elegant revenge isn't destruction, it's illumination. The world changes slowly, then all at once. 11 days after David's article went live, federal agents entered TitanEdge's Manhattan headquarters at 9:17 a.m. No sirens, no dramatic announcement, just 24 people in suits with badges and subpoenas, calmly requesting access to servers, financial records, and executive communications. I watched it unfold through text messages from former colleagues. Feds are here, conference rooms taken over, IT locked out of systems. They're boxing up Austin's hard drives. His assistant is being interviewed. Board emergency meeting called. Total lockdown. Truth has its own momentum once released. You don't need to push it. The SEC announced a formal inquiry the following day. TitanEdge's stock dropped 27% in hours. Trading was temporarily halted. Institutional investors began distancing themselves in carefully worded statements about governance concern. Have you ever watched something you built for years collapse in days? I had no satisfaction in seeing good people caught in the aftermath. Developers, sales teams, support staff, none of them knew about Austin's scheme. Now they faced uncertainty through no fault of their own. That part wasn't justice, just collateral damage. 3 days into the federal audit, TitanEdge's board released a terse statement. Leadership changes effective immediately. Austin Rayler has resigned as CEO. The board is fully cooperating with regulatory inquiries. Not fired, resigned. The corporate world's preferred fiction when executives fall. But language couldn't disguise reality. Austin was finished. His reputation in ruins, his future employment prospects destroyed. The modern equivalent of a public execution. He didn't fall because I pushed, he fell because he built the floor out of rotted wood. David Mercer published a follow-up piece the next day, diving deeper into the Horizon Innovation Partners scheme. The article quoted a source familiar with the company's internal structure, Angela, though unnamed, who detailed how the fraud had evolved over 3 years. My name appeared again, this time more prominently. Former executive Mark Harrow had reportedly expressed concerns about financial irregularities to senior leadership before his abrupt departure last month, according to multiple sources within the company. Accurate, though incomplete. I hadn't expressed concerns, I documented evidence. The difference matters. Angela called me that evening. You're getting quite the reputation as the quiet whistleblower. Not my intention, I replied. Isn't it, though? Something in her voice had changed. You constructed this perfectly. Positioned yourself as the reasonable executive who tried to warn them, not the angry ex-employee out for revenge. Did she sound impressed? Wary? Hard to tell. It's not about my reputation, I said. Then what is it about, Mark? I considered the question. Systems correction. She laughed softly. That's the most you answer I could imagine. We shifted to discussing the ongoing investigation. Angela had been contacted by both the SEC and Department of Justice teams as a former insider with relevant knowledge. There's something you should know, she said, her tone shifting. Austin wasn't working alone on this. I waited, let her continue. The registration for Horizon Innovation Partners? It didn't just involve Austin and his Stanford friend. There was a third signature on the formation documents. Whose? I asked, though I'd begun to suspect. James Donovan. The revelation landed like a stone in still water. James Donovan, current board member, head of the compensation committee, the man who had approved my termination. The DOJ found emails between them, Angela continued. Donovan was getting a percentage of every transaction through Horizon. He's the one who suggested using the government contract funds. Now the full picture emerged. Austin hadn't fired me capriciously. Donovan had recognized the threat I posed after seeing my detailed attention to the quarterly financials. Firing me wasn't a mistake, I said quietly. It was the cleanup phase. Exactly, Angela confirmed. They needed your deal but couldn't risk keeping you around to see where the money went. The perfect symmetry of it struck me. The very board member who had sanctioned my removal was now implicated by the evidence I'd collected. Systems balanced themselves, eventually. 2 days later, the Department of Justice announced formal charges against Austin Reller for wire fraud, money laundering, and government contract fraud. But the press release contained a surprise. James Donovan was named as a co-conspirator. The board member who thought he was protected had miscalculated. When Angela called again, her voice had a new urgency. The SEC investigators want to talk to you directly now. They're saying you're a person of interest, but not as a target, as a witness. When? Tomorrow morning. I can represent you if you like. I agreed. The next phase was beginning. That night, I sat on my apartment balcony, watching the city lights. Manhattan, always rebuilding itself, always shedding old versions, revealing new ones. Would TitanEdge survive this? Possibly. Companies have weathered worse storms with the right leadership change and transparent remediation. Would Austin or Donovan? No, their careers were finished. Did I feel vindicated? Not exactly. I didn't need them to thank me. I just needed them to see, to understand that actions have consequences, that systems have corrective mechanisms, that truth emerges eventually. The lights of a passing helicopter swept across the skyline. Somewhere in the financial district, I imagined federal agents still combing through TitanEdge's servers, following the digital breadcrumbs. How strange that I, the quiet one, the not dynamic executive, had triggered all this with nothing more than observation and timing. Perhaps that was the lesson Austin had never understood. The loudest voice isn't always the most dangerous. Sometimes it's the one that never needed to raise itself at all. 6 weeks after the federal raid, the legal machinery was fully in motion. I'd given my formal deposition to the SEC, testified before a grand jury about the financial structures Austin and Donovan had created. The indictments were now public, 37 counts between them. My role in all of it had been clarified. The conscientious executive who documented concerning patterns. Not a crusader or a whistleblower, just someone who paid attention. That suited me fine. The press had moved on to newer scandals. TitanEdge had appointed an interim CEO and announced a comprehensive governance review. Their stock had stabilized at about half its previous value. Systems find equilibrium, eventually. On a Thursday morning in late October, I woke before dawn. The city still dark outside my windows. I made coffee, but didn't drink it. Instead, I dressed in jeans and a gray sweater. Comfortable shoes, no watch, no phone. In my desk drawer sat a single USB drive. Matte black, unmarked, the last copy of the original files I'd collected. Every email, spreadsheet, and document that had brought down Austin Reller and James Donovan. The DOJ had their copies, Angela had hers. The evidence was secured in multiple locations. This one was just mine. I slipped it into my pocket and walked out. The East River at dawn has a particular quality. Industrial and peaceful at once. Container ships in morning light. The water moving silently beneath Manhattan's bridges. I found a spot near the edge where nobody passed, just me and the water and the rising sun. The weight of the USB drive was barely noticeable in my hand. Such a small thing to hold so much consequence. I hadn't opened these files in weeks, didn't need to anymore. Their purpose was fulfilled. With a simple motion, I dropped the drive into the dark water below. A small splash. Then, nothing. I kept the evidence as long as it was needed. After that, it was just weight. Some might call it destroying evidence. I saw it differently. The truth was already free, moving through proper channels. This final act was personal, not legal. A period at the end of a sentence. As I turned to walk away, my hand brushed against something in my back pocket. A business card I'd forgotten was there. Austin's. White cardstock with raised lettering. Austin Rayler, Chief Executive Officer. I hadn't seen him since the day he fired me. Hadn't spoken to him or contacted him in any way. Didn't need to. I took the card between my fingers, tore it neatly in half, then in quarters. A garbage truck rumbled past, making its morning rounds. I dropped the pieces into the back as it passed. No words, no calls, just the rustle of paper disappearing. Strange how endings rarely feel like endings when you're in them. Just quiet transitions from one state to another. Austin once said the company needed someone more dynamic. Maybe he was right. I watched the sunrise complete its emergence over Queens, the city coming awake around me, unaware of small conclusions happening in its midst. I took a deep breath of morning air, felt lighter somehow. Then I walked away, not looking back at the river or the fragments of a business card now lost among the city's discards. Some revenge is loud shouted accusations, public confrontations, emotional payback. Mine was just truth, precisely applied. In the end, that was enough.